most of us have accepted that as painful as it is, we need to stay at home a little longer until we can get those numbers under control. But it turns out there's a different group of people around the country who are saying, nah, how can we get those numbers to go up?
We will not submit to communism or socialism!
While in Texas, dozens chanted, "Fire Fauci."
Fire Fauci!
Fire Fauci? So instead of fighting the virus, they want to get rid of the one guy who's warning us about the virus? America is lucky these same people weren't around when Paul Revere was riding into town. The British are coming! The British are coming! Ugh, I hate the British. Someone shut that guy up. But yes, all around the country, over the weekend, protests popped up, demanding an immediate end to lockdowns. And let's be honest, people, this is both insane and counterproductive. Because the more you gather in groups, the longer the lockdown will have to go on. Can you imagine if during the AIDS crisis, mobs of people gathered to gangbang that monkey that started it all? What do we want? Monkey sex! When do we want it? Now! As coronavirus continues to sweep across America, leaders are trying to figure out the right balance between keeping people safe and keeping the economy moving, while the rest of us are trying to figure out if we can grow tomatoes by planting some ketchup. Spoiler alert, you can. And even though medical experts say it's still too soon to reopen the economy, a number of governors have announced that they're ready to start easing restrictions. For instance, in Georgia, Governor Brian Kemp has announced that businesses like gyms, hair salons, and bowling alleys are free to reopen by Friday. Yeah, I'm not a governor, but I'll be honest, this seems like a very strange decision. You know, bowling alleys? I feel like that should be the last place to reopen.
It is traumatic. This is traumatic for people, and that's the way I think about it. You're right, the economic pressure, you have no paycheck, but meanwhile, they're still sending you the bills. You know, there was the bill collector is an essential worker, and they're piling up on your desk. You don't know when you'll go back. You don't know if you will go back. Mm-hmm. You don't know if your job is still there, if your business is still there. You've been in the house with the family for a month. It sounds romantic the first 7 days, and then it gets highly stressful when you have everyone in that environment with nothing to do and everyone has their own stresses. So people are about to burst on one level. They're under that kind of pressure. On the other hand, we had 474 people die yesterday. You tell me how many people go outside today and touch other people. I'll tell you how many people walk into a hospital three days from now. The cause and effect is that tight. This virus communicates and transfers that quickly and that precisely. So you take a situation like New York City, where social distancing cannot happen by definition. Nobody gets 6 square feet of real estate, right? You don't get 6 feet on a subway car or on a bus or on a sidewalk. You will see those numbers go up. It is an impossible balance, Trevor. It's impossible to make both sides happy, if you will. Mm-hmm. And you just have to accept that. And for me, it's going to be about the data. We're going to do testing. We're going to look at that hospitalization rate. We're going to look at that death rate.
The scientist in charge of the government's efforts to make a coronavirus vaccine suddenly got fired with no explanation. Now, he says it's because he disagreed with President Trump about pushing hydrochloroquine as a miracle drug, right? But then, some people who worked with him said actually he was fired because he wasn't good at his job and he was working too slowly. And I'm sorry, people, but this is insane. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and Trump's people are squabbling like they're on an Andy Cohen reunion show. And to make things even worse, when President Trump was asked why the guy in charge of finding a vaccine was fired, this is how he responded.
I never heard of him. You just mentioned the name. I never heard of him. When did this happen?
This happened today.
Well, I never heard of him. If the guy says he was pushed out of a job, maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. You'd have to hear the other side. I don't know who he is.
That's right. Trump has never heard of the guy in charge of finding a vaccine. And you know what, to be honest, part of me is not surprised. Sir, would you like to meet the scientist who's in charge of finding the vaccine?
A scientist?
Ew, gross. I'd rather meet Eric.